Yeah, it's not too bad, thank you.
Can I just check, injury-wise, we've heard a lot in the last 24 hours about Rodrigo and Bamford. Can you give us any updates, Sam?
Rodrigo trained today. Patrick, we're going to give him as long as we can. Well, certainly till tomorrow. See where we're at before we make our final selection for Sunday. Obviously, in the striking area, we are not overwhelmed with strikers, perhaps. So, but it'll be what it'll be when we find out tomorrow morning. Then pick a final 11 to start the game on Sunday.
That almost sounds like you might be prepared to gamble on fitness, or is that not?
I'll gamble on anybody's fitness if they want to play, if I think they're going to make a contribution to try and help us win the game. So it's the last game. They can have plenty of time to recover. But there is obviously medical issues where it depends if you risk them, the risk is too great. So, and then of course a lot of it's up to the player himself.
What's the mood of the players? Because they've been training quite a bit at the stadium, haven't they, this week?
Love the mood. Love the application. Here's where we're going to live or die on Sunday in terms of the result, and all we can try and do is to give them as much opportunity to get the result that they need. That comes with the fact that we train here for the 3 days building up to the game, and the familiarity is. It's all about this arena, this stadium on Sunday, with obviously the fantastic atmosphere that will go with it, as was when we played Newcastle. So, and hopefully we'll go one step farther and win the game instead of drawing it.
You've also brought in Gary McAllister and Eddie Gray. What impact?
And Gordon Strachan this morning. Gordon's been here today. So.
What's the thinking behind that?
About how important Leeds is, what it meant to them, what the bit more of the history of the football club, and the fact that that they have had very successful times here, and I think that on the mentality side, it's about improving our mentality to deliver. So somebody speaking a different voice about football and about what they did at this football club and how much they love the club, I think is really important.
And not only have you to deliver, but you've got to bear in mind what's happening both at Everton and Leicester. On the day, how do you cope and manage that situation?
Well, the fans will tell us, won't they? The fans will tell us what the score is. It won't need me to tell him, and tell by the mood of the crowd. So, because that happens everywhere. Well, everyone I've been involved with, so... And of course, for my escape, which has only happened, last game of the season only happened once, which was second season at Bolton. Not only were we winning, we also knew that that West Ham weren't winning at Birmingham, so because the fans told us so. But the only focus for the players is to win the game, and they can't do any more than that.
Thank you. Good luck,
Adam. Right, Sam, with that in mind, though, don't you want accurate information? Because crowds get it wrong sometimes. Also, a win might not.
Well, not for me personally, because I'll be adjusting to what's happening on the field, and somebody else will have that distraction, and I'm not so sure whether I'll tell them on the day whether I want to hear it or whether I don't. So I don't want to hear that somebody's done something there and I change something here on the basis of that, and it makes the team worse and doesn't make them better. So, on the view of the game and what's happening in the game and what we're doing, I want to decide on my substitutions on what we're doing, not on what other people are doing elsewhere.
And what have you seen since last weekend's defeat in this week to suggest that you're going to turn that around and get the win you need?
Well, play like we played against Newcastle, because we played a good performance. Our best performance by far since I've been here was the first half against West Ham. Outstanding in terms of the way we played and the possession we had. Unfortunately, our final third play was not up to scratch to score more goals than one, and we should have done. But tomorrow is around the fact that there's tactics, and tactics have to be put into place. One is Tottenham's outstanding strength is the front lads. and we have to, as a team, when Tottenham's in possession of the ball, make sure that is not successful, and then after that is what are the weaknesses of Tottenham, and we saw a lot of weaknesses against Brentford last week that we got to try and exploit. So we've got to do that. We've got to do that the best we possibly can, and we've got to play the best game we possibly can. And the game, they have to play the game for the entire period of the game. We can't just, do what we did against West Ham, which is got lost in the second half and didn't recover. Yes, we could get lost for 5 or 10 minutes and you can hold on, and then you come back into the game, and we never really did that.
You brought some legends into the club this week. Gordon Strachan, you mentioned, Eddie Gray, Gary McAllister. And can I ask, how do the younger players respond? Because with all respect, they might...
Once they found out what they've done and who they are, yeah, with a great deal. I mean, all they have to do is listen to them. You know what I mean? I mean, Eddie's been around a long time anyway, so I've seen Eddie every other day since I've been here, like you mean. So, I think that, his love for Leeds United and his passion for Leeds United, as is Gary and Guns, with different eras, of the times they've spent, and what a great time they've had at Leeds United, and what it means to them.
Finally for me, Sam, how much have you had your eyes open, ears to what's needed to be a successful club?
Right, that's confidential. That will be aired in the aftermath of this season, wherever we may finish, and see where we go from there.
Richard?
Sam, you've just spoken about having highs and the rollercoaster of emotions in the 3 games that you've been manager here for. It's inevitable that on the final day of the season, that is going to happen again. With that in mind, how important is it for you to have leaders on the pitch with calm heads prevailing? Controlled
Aggression and calm and composure, particularly in possession, is a necessity, because the more possession we have, the better quality we can deliver, the more we can get at Tottenham's defensive unit, which I think is obviously a weakness based on what we'd seen particularly against Brentford last week. So, how do we do that? Well, we can't do that without ignoring what Tottenham's strengths are. So the balance of the two means that we try and score first again. We've done that in the last 2 games and then failed miserably after that. When you score first, generally 80% of the time on the stats you wouldn't lose the game, but there's an awful lot of time to play after it, to do the right job, and I think that it's the only time they've got left to do the right job for our ball will be in play for 52 minutes, maybe 55. So it's about 55 minutes of pure concentration, not 90, because obviously the ball's there to play all the other time. So then it's just about getting in the right position and doing the right thing. I want just to see their best, and the best will get the fans behind them, and the fans behind them will help them score or help them do what they need to do to get a result, I think.
Obviously, you would much rather not be in this position right now with Leeds United, but in football terms, as a football man, are you able to appreciate the drama, the tension of the final day?
No, I hate it where I am now, because I came here and said to the players, I want to be in a position that if we win, we stay in the league, no matter what anybody else does. And that's not happened. So I've been disappointed from that point of view, because we have had the opportunity to do that, but we've failed to take it, and so we're going to Sunday's game in the hope that we can do 2 things. If we are to win, we need a clean sheet, in my opinion, because we are not a prolific goal-scoring team, and then try and win by as many goals as we can.
Thank you.
Michael?
You've talked about those that have experienced success here at Leeds and the benefit of their experience. If things all fall into place on Sunday and you do manage to survive in the top flight, it will be perhaps the greatest of all great escapes. So, even though you've been here for only a few games, have you considered the chapter that you might write in this club's history?
Well, I think if there's been some greatest of greatest escapes, like you mean, like I can always remember Brian Robson, big mate of mine, doing West Brom, like you mean, who not only won but needed all the others not to, wherever that was. We got that similar situation with Leicester and Everton. I think with Robbo it might have been a few more than just two, like you mean. So all we can do is win the football match and is pray the right word? I don't know. Is it? I don't know. But hope let's say the gods look after us and all the other results go the right way for us. But you know, winning is the ultimate. Winning is the only thing we control and try and control, and finish the season, you know, with a victory for the fans and for themselves, and then hopefully after all that there's a celebration.
Regardless of the outcome on Sunday, would you still like this job this time?
That's to be decided after the end. It's always been a case of we will discuss whatever we need to discuss on the end of the season based on where we are, based on what I think the club needs to go forward, based on what the club thinks. And if that's aligned with each other, then we'll wait and see. But that discussion, it doesn't happen in a morning or one day. It happens over a period of time, and see. I just hope that we're talking on a very positive nature on Monday morning, and I have a hangover.
Thank you,
Graham. When you got
Did you like that one?
when you've got Rodrigo instead of Bamford up front, do you have to change the way you construct attacks? Can he be a target man?
We've actually changed the way we constructed our attacks in every single game, actually. So, and obviously tomorrow's tactics or Sunday's tactics will be slightly different to what West Ham was and what Newcastle was and what Manchester City was. I have to say that the adapting nature of the player has been pretty good, because we've done a lot of practice with it. So we haven't wasted our time to control the controllables and about how we play against the opposition, what the opposition do, what the strengths and weaknesses are, and how we challenge that. And we challenge that by tactically making differences within the team.
You said a lot depends with injured players on the player himself. Are you seeing players stick their hand in the air? Are they doing absolutely everything they can to play?
Only if it's the right thing for them to take the challenge up, and the medical staff are saying, if the medical staff told me it's too risky and I wouldn't put a player's career future at risk and ask him to do something that may injure him seriously at the end of the game. So the risk factor would be taken into consideration, and that decision taken from there. It would need to be 100% supported by the player.
Hey Sam, you were fairly disparaging about the impact of the subs at West Ham.
I was.
Have you seen a material reaction from them in training this week?
I have a lot to do on a match day and a lot to decide and a lot to look after. And the biggest and one of the most difficult things that a manager now has to face is substitutions times 5. Because, you know, if it's hard enough, it was hard enough before. Now it made it even harder for us, because all of a sudden you make 5 subs, the coach is crap. Because his 5 subs were crap and it didn't influence the game. So you didn't make 5 subs, the coach is crap because he didn't make any subs. The game's only 2 subs, he should have made 5. He made 5 subs, he shouldn't have made any. So all that criticism we have to face. But in all fairness, the opportunity to put an impact sub on is a massive decision. And when you see it fail, it's very disappointing that player has had an opportunity to affect the game and not lived up to the standard that you expected, and probably their standard. You know, and it's not an easy job getting on the field and making an impact. So it is one of the difficult jobs for them to do, but something that we accept more and more now by the fact that we have 5 substitutes to to deal with now.
Last season, the club got out of a similar situation, maybe not quite as difficult, but on the final day. I'm sure you've heard all about
Different squad.
Yeah. Have you focused in any way on that and the psychology behind that achievement last year?
We somewhat, yes, but I mean it's a different squad and a different squad of players in there, like I mean. So a lot of the players here, did experience that last year. So I would expect the players that have experienced that to come up with the goods on Sunday.
Thank you.
Stuart?
Hi, Sam. Understandably, you seem very disappointed after the West Ham game. I just wondered what your sort of mechanisms and your support are.
I was disappointed in the second half performance, and when I was right up there with apart from the goal we conceded, which could have been easily avoidable, and maybe that was then the turning point of the game because we never came out in the second half. So I can only point in the right direction to the players to continue the way they played in the second half, but they didn't, and that was a huge disappointment for me. Not to take the quality of our football to West Ham again. I mean, David Moyes said to me how we were 3-0 up by the first 20-25 minutes is why we got back in the game. So when the opposite manager's telling you, who I've known for God knows how many years now, you were on the right track. The only thing we didn't do was capitalise on our good play, and then in the end of the day, like everything else at this league, you get punished for not taking advantage when you're in control. So a bit like here, 2-0 up. I'm convinced we wouldn't have lost. 2-0 up against West Ham. I'm convinced we wouldn't have lost, but we didn't do it. So that's what we've got to achieve on Sunday.
I just wonder who are the people who you rely on to lift your mood after a game like that?
Oh, I lift my mood because it's my responsibility to lift my mood. My mood, as James will tell you, he's sat behind you there. He's always very, very good when I arrive at the football ground. So my job is to lift everybody, and that's why I call myself a manager rather than head coach, because it's all big responsibility to understand people, to lead people, and to understand how they work and lift them. So it's much greater than, or just as important as tactics. So I think we've enjoyed our week as best we possibly can, and the focus has always been on how do we beat the opposition in a way that we enjoy what we've done this week, and hopefully they can translate that into the game on Sunday.
Phil?
Ayling said on Sunday that he didn't think the team had anything to go again in the second half, almost suggesting that the energy wasn't there. So I wonder what you make of the fitness and the condition.
Well, it was there against Newcastle. That's what surprised me. We were better than Newcastle with our energy, like you mean, and we were pretty good against Manchester City. So what? It was a huge disappointment because of what he said. But there's mental fitness. Mental fitness is much better than physical fitness, because you'll give more when you're mentally strong, and if you drive yourself on mentally, then you will overcome that bit of lack of physical fitness that you have. It's a bit like I told you last week, innit? How fast you run if I point a gun at you. You'll run the fastest you've ever run, won't you? You know what I mean? So you'll become an Olympic sprinter very quickly.
Martin. Hiya, Sam. Tottenham have changed manager twice this season. I'm assuming that they didn't make an approach to yourself, and they went down much more inexperienced routes. Was that something that frustrated you when you were at the game that nobody came to?
There was a few came, but it wasn't good enough for me at that particular time. Most of them was abroad, and at my later stage in life, and with a wife that's followed me all over the place, she just said no way. So that was the end of it. So it had to be one that came up that would interest me. It's just a shame. I'm not criticising anybody. It's just a shame it wasn't sooner. But it is what it is, and I'm a glutton for punishment, because obviously what people have said, what the hell do you think you're doing? Not only 4 games, but the 4 games you're facing. But I've given it my best shot. I've enjoyed it as best you can. I don't enjoy it when we lose. I don't enjoy travelling back when we've lost, and I don't enjoy the day after. But after that, we analyse it, get over it, and start again. And dealing with young players again is obviously keeps you young in it, and thinking. Love thinking about what we're going to do and what we're not going to do, instead of wondering whether I'm going to have a cup of tea and a poached egg on toast and walk round the reservoir and watch whatever's on Netflix and walk round the reservoir again. It's pretty goddamn boring.
You've answered part of my second question, which was how much have you enjoyed being back in the game? And the second part of that is, could you go another 23 months outside of the game?
I can't answer that at this moment in time. It's like talking about what's going to happen at pre-season here and what's going to happen, what time we're going to go back and all that. Now it's just about it's all there because all the lads have done it, but we can't talk about it till after Sunday.
Could we turn cameras off if that's okay, because we're going to move on to the Sunday embargo section, if that's all right?